Welcome to my training log for the third week of January 2023. This week we have a couple top sets to talk about, some changes I've made to my programming, and we're going to go through an upper body hypertrophy day. So let's get started. Rip and tear is supposed to have an AMRAP, or as many reps as possible, set for bench, squat, and deadlift every week except for the first week of each month. And last week I didn't perform these because I was dealing with the injury, but I got right back on top of them this week. So first off, I had a bench top set of 355 pounds for 5 reps. I believe this is a 5 rep max PR, but I'm not entirely positive. I haven't kept track of all my various higher rep PRs as well as I used to, but still a very solid set, and I was happy with how easily it moved, considering I didn't feel particularly strong this day. On squats, I subbed in a box squat for a standard free squat. Just in deference to the injury, I wanted to stay a bit more upright. I think it's more or less healed, but I didn't see a point in putting too much force in that area quite yet. So this is 505 pounds for 15 reps, which is a pretty serious PR over my last time I'd done this kind of box squat with this bar, which was 525 pounds for only 10 reps. So 20 pounds less, but 5 reps more, I'm considering that a win. One thing I was particularly happy about with this set is that I managed to stay very upright. These actually look like squats and not like back supported deadlifts. And based on this, I've actually decided to call an audible on my programming, which is not terribly surprising for me. I'm not going to do any more free squats for the remainder of rip and tear. Instead, I'm going to gradually progress the height of the box down throughout the program. So this is just shy of 20 inches. Next block I'll do 18 inches, the block after that 16 inches probably, and then maybe for the first chunk of my next cut I'll get down to the box at parallel height and I'll shoot for some actual squat PRs because I haven't really done a peaked squat PR in quite a while. I'm excited to see how this works because I've wanted to explore removal of assistance progression for a while. The idea being that you start with a very heavy weight that is very close to the max you can hit, or more than the max you can hit for an unassisted rep, but you also start with a significant level of assistance. And then as you go forward, instead of increasing the weight, you just kind of reduce the level of assistance, in this case lowering the height of the box, with the idea being that you ideally continue to lift the same weight with less and less assistance until you're able to lift a new max completely unassisted. So I've used something like that before to good effect with deadlift, where I decreased the height of the pull from blocks down to the floor, which resulted in a big PR of 6 plate for 20 reps. So I'm excited to see how that kind of translates to other movements and potentially running an entire program focused around that idea in the future. As for deadlifts, I didn't do a top set this week. In fact, like I said I probably would, I just canned the working sets of deadlift and will just kind of continue to do my own thing off the cuff when it comes to deadlifts. That's what's worked for me in the past. I keep trying to make myself train deadlift more normally because I feel like I should, or maybe I'm missing something if I don't, but honestly I don't need to. It got me an injury. It doesn't benefit me, it wastes my energy, it disrupts my flow, and I would really much rather take that deadlift slot and do something like this instead. Because this is fun, it works similar muscles, and regardless of what I do, my deadlift keeps going up. That's something I've learned over the last 3 or 4 years now, so there's really no reason to do something that I don't enjoy rather than something I do enjoy if the end result is going to be the same. So next up, we're going to look at one of my hypertrophy days, which is the upper body day that I do on Thursdays. First off, I forgot to film the Smith machine overhead press that I did at the gym, so this is some dumbbell overhead press that I did at home today. I like the Smith machine overhead press. It's one of the many movements I've stolen from John Meadows, specifically because in a standard barbell overhead press, you're forced to go kind of back and over your head in order to not have the weight out in front of you, which will inevitably fall forward. With the Smith machine, you can set yourself a little bit behind the bar and keep all that pressure on your front delts, and the bar will not travel forward because it's on a fixed track. So it feels really good, it's comfortable, you can push really hard, and it stays really focused on the front delts, which is what I'm looking for in these movements. After the Smith machine overhead press, I moved to a back movement. This day it was a single arm machine row. I'm a big fan of these, specifically on this machine. I'll do them high rep. I try and really focus on getting a large range of motion. I do single arm over both arm because I feel like you can't get quite the same range when you try and do both arms at once because you can't really lean into it like I do at the end. Plus it's easier just to focus when you're doing the one arm and you're not worried about moving quite as much weight overall. What I do on these sets is I like to alternate which grip I do. So this is the overhand grip. I'll also do a neutral grip on that inner handle, and then that outer handle is also kind of a semi-neutral grip, and that one feels really novel compared to any of the back movement I've done before. I'm a big fan of it. I've really been enjoying this next machine. I've been using it on all my Upperbody days for the last couple of weeks. It's a converging neutral grip chest press. I'm a big fan of chest presses if they converge and if they happen to fit my weird long arms, which is not many chest presses. So I was really happy when this one turned out to fit so well. I don't think that chest presses that don't have that converging path are really worth anything. They're just kind of like awkward barbell presses at that point. But when you get one that converges well, like specifically gets really close at the end, you really can't mimic that with a barbell or even with dumbbells, because you really can't see it in this video, but my hands are basically touching by the end. So that's a big squeeze. So it's kind of like a hybrid between a dumbbell press and a fly, which just feels great. I'm a big fan of this next machine. I've been using it for years. They used to have it at the old gym location. They moved it to this one. It's one of my go-tos when I want to do a downward pull movement. And that's because the arms just don't go straight down. They go kind of in at the end. It's kind of an arc. And what that ends up being is kind of like a hybrid between a lat pull down and a straight arm lat push down. So not only pulling down the top, but you're kind of pulling down and out. And that just has a really kind of novel feeling that you can't get with either just a lat pull down or just a straight arm lat push down. So I really like machines that kind of blend multiple movements or allow for pathways that you can't replicate with free weights. So that's most of what I use. I'm doing all of these movements for 3 to 5 sets and then anywhere between 10 and 20 reps. It's mostly based on how I'm feeling that day, and I tend to err towards the higher rep ranges on these hypertrophy days because I keep to the lower rep ranges on my barbell days, so they just kind of complement each other better that way. These are just cable chest flies, nothing special. I'm not a fan of pec decks or doing these with dumbbells. Both ways just hurt my shoulders. The cables don't, however, and they let me get that nice tight squeeze and burn out whatever's left in my chest. They're just a good exercise to end your chest days or your upper body days because you're already tired after all the other sets, and these don't take a ton of energy because you're moving very light weights. But you get a good contraction in your pecs. It's something that you don't really feel with your barbell benching, and I don't know, it's nice to get a chest pump. So finally, we have my favorite way to do lateral raises, which is with cables, laying down backwards on a low row station. So if you can't really see what I'm doing here, I'm laying on my back at the low row and I'm using the dual cables to just do lateral raises like it would be if I was standing upright. What I like about being on my back is that it's a lot easier to isolate my medial delts as opposed to getting traps in there. Something about just having that tangible thing keeping your back straight and not worrying about like standing up or anything. It just makes it so much easier to isolate, and I highly recommend this movement. So as kind of some closing thoughts, I feel like I've hit kind of a stride for this bulk. Shifting into a bulk or even into a cut requires a bit of a shift in mentality because the training goals change, how I approach my training changes, and it takes a little bit to kind of get the new momentum going. So 3 weeks in, I feel like I've kind of hit that. I've identified a good balance between the right amount of volume to do to grow, but not to completely tire myself out, and a good balance between doing what I have to do in order to get better and the things I want to do. And I found that depriving myself of the goofy sets that I want to do the first 2 weeks it really made training not fun, made it a chore, and that's not something that is sustainable, at least not for me. So I'm glad that I was able to find kind of a better balance between what I have to do and what I want to do. So yeah, tell me what you think, and I'll see you next week.